Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. We are going through our discussion on Brene Brown's work on men, women, and worthiness. Today, I want to talk about step 2 on the 4 pillars of shame resilience. To remind us, the 4 pillars are number 1, recognizing you are in shame. Number 2, reality check the shame messages that you're getting. Number 3, reach out and tell your story, ask for help, find safe people to be vulnerable with. Number 4, speak shame, call it its name, put light on it so that it retreats into the darkness. I want to talk about the way we compare things because one of the shame gremlins, or what I call ghosts, is that inner critic voice, the parent that is always trying to make you perfect, or what I call for women, the perfect woman. That image that we are running towards to try and be perfect. I always say it's the woman who has 5 kids, 2 jobs, full face of makeup, never breaks a sweat. House is always perfect, work is always done on time. This picture of perfection that we cannot get to, but we keep on trying. And it's just this inner voice that keeps on telling you can't sleep until you do this. A good illustration that Brene Brown has in her book is the 80s movie called Flashdance. And it is a story about a broke, I think she's a stripper, exotic dancer that is trying to get into an illustrious dance school. Refined, where they're ballerinas and things. The main part of the movie at the end is when she does this unconventional dance that has her auditioning for the entrance board for this school. And she does a mix of ballet, hip hop, acrobatics. Just Google it. Flashdance ending scene. What a lot of people do not realize is that there were 4 or 5 different people who did that scene. They made the movie look like it was just the actress that did it, but they also had a ballerina do part of the dance. They had a man who was a break dancer dress up like a woman to do the breakdancing piece. They had a gymnast on all the flips and jumps. They had, some pieces of her there. They just had different dancers. And I think that is similar to what we're trying to do here. We are all trying to do that one routine of flash dance, but we have to realize that a ballerina can never do the breakdance. Well, most ballerinas cannot, because they're just so specialized in their type of dance that they cannot properly execute the breakdancing parts. And a lot of breakdancers cannot do other things, may not be able to be gymnasts or ballerinas or things of that sort. I feel that the rat race that we're on with these shame gremlins and shame ghosts is that it's trying to make us continually run and try to hit this ideal that really takes 4 people to do. And can we step back and be okay with saying, well, the perfect woman would be able to do all those 4 different things, but I am not the perfect woman, and that is okay. I cannot work 120% on my job every day. Some days I am 100, some days I'm 80, some days I'm 120, some days I'm 60. Is that okay? Can we be at peace with that? Another one I like was talking about how people do faulty comparisons, where, for example, I would look at a friend who had a fantastic relationship, and I will say, oh, her boyfriend or husband does all these wonderful things and mine doesn't. And we tend to compare only in one field. It is very rare that we look at the full picture. And this is the trick of all these shame ghosts, is that they try to make us look at a half truth. And many times we look at only their job or only their relationship or only their kids. But sometimes if we look at the whole thing, and it's not saying that our friend or the person we're comparing it to has something horrible, like, oh yeah, she has a great marriage, but her kids are monsters. No, this person's life may be okay. But when you compare the fullness of your life, you might find out that you are actually doing quite well and you're doing quite okay. And it removes or reduces the pressure to compare. And I found that out a lot of times because at the time, I was very unhappy in my relationship, but I found out that work was going okay. And my kids were fine. And my other relationships, like relationships with my family, with church, with other things were going okay. My health was fantastic. I had a lot of other things that were going okay, but because I had this spotlight and I was paying attention to her relationship and comparing it to mine, I missed out on all the other things. And quite frankly, I realized even though she has a really great life, my friend has a great life, I truly don't want her life. I actually wanted my life just with a better relationship. and so once you see that, you realize that your comparisons are kind of not completely factual. Many times. Sometimes they are. Sometimes things are really rough on all fronts. In closing, I'd like to talk about a poem I remembered many years ago I read. It's called Desiderata. And it says that if you compare yourself with others, you will become vain or bitter because there will always be someone greater or lesser than you. And that was the lesson I wanted to learn, because I sometimes suffer from grass is greener on the other side. There was a season when, for example, because of the visa I had, I was unable to work for many years. And I was busy thinking, oh, everyone else has it better because they can work. But I was not looking at, one, yes, there are people who are better in the work sense, who are able to work. But then on the other hand, I was not hurting for money. I had a partner that was working at the time, so I could afford not to work. In that way, there were other people who were unable to work, but had to fend for themselves, and I wasn't taking that into account. I had friends who were in more dire visa issues than I was in. I wasn't taking that into account. So when you find out sometimes that you're in the middle of the block, it changes things. So that's looking at it where I have things a little bit better than others. I also see the other side where I voice out my pain and someone says, oh, you think that's great. You think you're suffering. Oh, you need to see this other person. And then it also invalidates your pain. But there was a saying that someone said there will always be a Jew in Auschwitz. What that meant was that no matter how bad your situation is, there will always be someone who would love to trade places with you. And what that meant was that you cannot write off someone's pain because there's always going to be someone worse. Yeah, your dad was a drunk, but hey, there are some people who were sexually abused. Oh, you were sexually abused. Well, there are some people who their parents tried to kill them. And there's always going to be a situation that is worse. At the same time, it does not invalidate your pain. And so I say that do not feel unworthy of your pain, because that does not help you resolve it. But rather, when you are resolving it, identify with the feelings you got, whatever they were: shame, pain, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, fear, wondering how you're going to make it the next day. That many times is universally felt, in different degrees, of course, but it's still universally felt. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we should not feel shame for having too much pain or too little of it, because that does not serve anyone. It doesn't serve the one who is, has quote unquote worse problems, and it doesn't serve the one who has less problems. What does serve us is empathy and compassion towards people who are going through pain. I hope this rambling that I have done is helpful. See you on the next one.